From the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Welcome back, everyone, to Around Foxborough. My name is J Love. I'm your host. Today, we have wonderful guest. She is really amazing artist, very accomplished artist. She had worked on major movies, games, and we are so lucky to have Alison. Alison, welcome to
Thank
Around
you.
Foxborough again.
Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt. You're so kind. I think, you work so much, you kind of forget the things you do until it starts to add up and other people remind you. It's like, oh yeah, I did do that. So thank you very much. It's very much an honor to be here.
Wonderful. So, Alison, can you please tell us your full name and then who you are to our audience?
Absolutely. My name is Alison Kellom. I am a classically trained artist and old master technique in realism. I studied at the Atelier School of Classical Realism in Oakland, California, when I was about 22, and while I was also working two jobs, bartending, waitressing, working up to eventually get into film, video games, and then into feature films. And so I've worked at Disney and 2K Games and Warner Brothers on different CG films, from Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey to Happy Feet 2 and Mars Needs Moms, as well as the faces and scans and whatnot, bodies for the NBA 2K series. And so, and all my training really sort of led me to this career. So it's an honor to be here. But yes, I know I have definitely a diverse and unique career, to say the least.
So, Alison, you just said so many amazing things in one breath, and people just don't understand the caliber of work and amazing career that you had in California. So you were in Hollywood, California. You were in California for worked in these major movies for many years.
Well, actually, yeah, and Northern California, so sort of northern, the San Francisco Bay Area, where a lot of the people from ILM and Lucasfilm actually worked. And we had put together a company called Image Movers Digital. And so I was someone that joined the team around 2007, that was spearheaded by Doug Chang, who is now, I think, artistic. I don't even know. He's got an amazing title with the whole Star Wars sort of realm and Disney at the moment. He is the designer, but he was the sort of president of our company, and the director was Robert Zemeckis. And so had the deep and great honor to be able to work alongside and study with some of the people that had worked on my favorites growing up. Like, I every day would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm working with you. So it was very surreal at times. I did go down to LA on set for Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. So I was in facial motion capture. And so I was the person that would train the junior artists and how to process the facial data that would come through from Jim Carrey's head cams. You can see the videos of them like running around with the sort of strange little camera rigs on their heads, and then wearing these like strange little suits with balls, little reflective ping pong balls all over their arms and bodies. And so we would take that data and then apply that to the character models. And so I was a part of basically working on over half of all of the facial performances in the film. And then basically once that wrapped up, I then moved over to the set layout department, I believe, and helped with set layout, and then which means helping to basically imagine a play. And I was the people that would help put in like dressing the set, in the sense of putting everything where it needed to be so that it looked pretty. And so like sounds silly, like the Ghost of Christmas Present, there's this huge food pile. And so I was helping to sort of make sure the food pile was in the proper place. He's sitting on this huge thing and all these sort of garland and all along the walls. And so there's things that we had to place and be in certain like specific positions for the camera and for each shot. And then after that wrapped up, I then moved over to performance capture. I mean, the list went on so that's why I become a generalist. Wherever I can help, I do my best to sort of pick up and learn. At the very end of Christmas Carol, I was sculpting faces and basically anything, whether it was Scrooge's sleeve, if his arm was, say, going through his sleeve and you could see it in sort of the final renders and the lighting, they would call it out. And so my department would come in like sculpt his arm back in so it didn't look like it was going through his sleeve, which would be like, that looks weird. So I basically, our department was to make sure weren't there. We made everything look pretty at the very end. And so that was a very high stressful situation too. But jobs that you wouldn't imagine people are doing when you're watching your favorite CG feature films, there could be up to 500 people working on that movie for years. So it's definitely, I think I worked on Christmas Carol, I want to say for at least 2.5 years. So we lived in Christmas for about 2.5 years. I know the script probably inside and out. If I hear any play or whatever, I can kind of say the words along with them. And I love it though. It was an honor. I am so, yeah. Those are the moments where even though there was long late nights and a lot of stress and times and, many hours at my computer, you get to see the fruits of our labors later on and be able to enjoy that every year they show it on TV, which is sort of an honor. So I know I still am amazed. I still am like, whoa, did that happen? Oh, yeah, no, it's silly.
Awesome. So now you have something behind you. So would you be able to demonstrate live for the Around Foxborough audience?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I will.
Yeah.
Do a quick little still life study. While the sort of lockdown, I've been teaching online and teaching people how to draw. My whole career started from the atelier and learning how to draw from observation. So first off, you're like, what is she doing? I'm doing what's called the underpainting technique. And this is sort of what the old masters would use when they were creating their pieces on a canvas. They would put burnt umber or raw sienna or some sort of medium, some sort of middle tone on top of their white canvas. So that way you could kind of push and pull the values a little bit. And basically what would happen is they'd have about an hour, maybe 2, to sort of draft out and draw everything underneath tonally. And then later would they then add on the sort of glazing and color. Whoops, come on. My computer. Okay, there we go. So I'm sort of quickly just making notes. I'm not even really committing. This is something people are like, what is she doing? Looks so weird in the beginning. Now I'm going to take a kneaded eraser. I'm going to start. This is what sort of like removing out the tone, and I'm what's called revealing the canvas in a sense underneath. And so now it's a reverse. It's a reductive. I'm actually sculpting out the light, which is really, when people think drawing, they immediately think, oh, I've got to sit down and just start outlining things. And the first thing I learned at the atelier was that life doesn't have black outlines. I had to do my first still life and I had to keep redrawing it because I was informed of that. And when I actually look at it, you really do see that there's not really this sort of cartoon Bugs Bunny black outline that we initially think when we're drawing. And so that in itself was sort of a shift in my mindset of like, how do I see? And so really at the end of the day, what I'm teaching and showing people isn't so much how to draw. I'm really teaching them how to observe and use their own brains to be able to analyze and make decisions on their own based on the overall piece. And so as you can see, it's super abstract right now. If someone were to walk in, they'd be like, what? What is that? And I always say, like, that's the goal. Like initially it shouldn't make sense. Initially it should be pretty rough. But that's where allowing that abstractness actually allows for me to be more permissive of putting in, if I need to change things. Sorry, I'm grabbing different charcoal. I can erase things if I don't want it, if it's not working. And this is sort of an opposite process again. This is thinking about using the eraser not as a mistake tool, but as a drawing tool, which is something that's sort of uncomfortable for some people to think about because they're so used to thinking that when they draw, it's like, oh no, I made a mistake, I have to fix it. And I always talk about the idea of course correcting instead, that it's not about perfection and about getting it right the first time. It's about finding it and sort of seeing what works as you go and what are you seeing and understanding. That's the most important thing. And so I kind of sort of, as you see, I'm sort of systematically going through the list of outlines, maybe to pop out this orange, this lemon, even though it's not true. This is what I talk about too, is this idea of artistic license. I'm going to do things that maybe we don't see but I'm analyzing it and saying, for me to pop out this lemon, I want to make it darker. I would need to make more contrast for it by putting a darker outline around like the background. And so I'm sort of hitting a point where I think I'm going to actually put some color in. Sort of scandalous. We're going bold. This is what would be called the local color. This is literally just the object if there was no light, or just the sort of flat light concept. Now I'm going to take my yellow and I'm literally just pouring I'm even drawing on the side of my chalk, so it's not even like the outline. Maybe I'll do that for the orange too. I'm going to break it. Do the same. Sometimes it's all about getting loose. The more like we can let go and not be so like about drawing, letting go of that idea of perfection and the idea that it's like if it's not right or accurate or whatever, that there's something wrong with you. I don't know. People start to get really, there's a feeling of shame. There's a feeling of sort of disappointment that happens. And so I want to avoid that. I want people to think that when they're creating, it's about finding, it's about what are you understanding? It's communication, really. I feel like drawing is the human language. You know, that sounds strange, but I feel like when we're children, we all draw, we're all artists. That's pretty much how we communicate beyond, you know, being able to really write. We draw first. And so I think that, I don't know, that universal language, at some point, someone tells you you can't do it. And you're like, nope, you're either encouraged or discouraged. And so my goal is to help those that have been told that they can't do it, or those that have sort of lost their way and forgotten what they are capable of, to show them that it's okay. You don't have to have that sort of cliche, mean art teacher that's going to go and be like, no, and come and cross it out and tear up your paper. Like, that's terrible. I don't want that for you. I think that there's so much more that can happen with it. Like, you know, we can have a better experience and be more supportive. We don't have to be aggressive in our communicating. So you're seeing me, I'm like layering in color. You're like, why is she putting reds and pinks and blues on top of yellow and on top of green? This is a color temperature concept. This is sort of a different idea that basically, so I studied in the school, it basically is sort of the school of Vermeer. And so with that, it's all about light. And really for them, like the light through a window, theirs was sort of a bluish northern, from the north light, morning light that would come in. So that is sort of where you get that girl with a pearl earring, or even just like the lady with the pitcher of the water and stuff. Sorry, my brain's making choices. It looks alive. It looks like voluminous, and that when you try to make something with shading, it's not good enough to just add white or lighter. That there has to be a color sort of temperature adjustment. I'm going to make my orange bigger. I want them to touch. And so that's sort of what they've discovered was this sort of like, where's my light blue? It's not, you know, this color temperature idea of like the color of light. And so really in a way, what I'm also talking about in teaching is science. Like it's really just photons and the behavior of light as it bounces off of a surface and the way that our eyes perceive. So I'm kind of just giving a little bit of information there. I'm going to add some highlights. You know, a little muddy. That's okay. So you can see even now it's still a little abstract. Like that's kind of the point in the beginning of all of these pieces. They shouldn't be distinct. I think that that's where people kind of get it wrong, is they think that, okay, I'm going to fully render the orange and then I'm going to move on and fully render the lemon. And that kind of makes it really disjointed. And so we want to kind of work as a cohesive piece. And so you see, I'm literally bouncing around the page, and this idea of just moving and finding the pieces. I'm sort of doing like a wash. My brain is sort of interpreting as I'm going around and saying, okay, who needs input? Who needs that? I think maybe I might just do a final light little blue, and then some dark black. How are we doing on time? Got a couple minutes left, hopefully. Let's see, I'm going to kind of pop out. This is what they would call like crossing the T's. This is where places two sort of pieces intersect. And so, and that's the thing, is like people think it's this like mystery and that, oh, the old masters. It's like, it's math, it's science, it's geometry, it's studying the behavior of light and shadow on a form. It's understanding, communicating a three-dimensional shape on a two-dimensional, medium, which is really just like an optical illusion, and so we're learning how to become illusionist to sort of be like, look over here, this sort of trickery of the eye in a sense. And so then it strips away that like, oh, you either have it or you don't concept. I think that that's where, it's not about what you can physically do. It's about what, oops, come on, one more, I'm trying to get 2 more seconds in there. I can. Then we'll wrap it up super fast. I just want to get some shadows to this guy. Now you can see I'm literally jamming through this. This is a super fast 10-minute little sketch, but this is about capturing the gesture of it sometimes, about just the overall feel of a drawing can be fun. I think that if we can experiment and play and be silly and let go of our idea of perfection, we can have a little bit more fun. And of course, I've been training and practicing a lot, but to be able to do this, but I know that people can do it themselves. It's just a matter of doing the legwork. It's about conditioning your brain. It's about a lot of just practice. I can draw with my left hand, but the lines won't be as clean. They won't be as sure, but there'll be lines, and so there's something to that it's, my brain basically understands the shapes. And I think that that's the part that it's like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, well, once you understand, you don't not understand it. Like, you can't lose that knowledge. So I think if we can find that moment of being willing to sort of make mistakes, have it not come out perfect. I think I'm probably wrapping it up for you, Jury. If you want, we can pull me away at any moment because I literally could, you kind of keep on going. But so that's quick little 10-minute sketch to sort of show some quick techniques of sort of still life. And even then, this is sort of a setup from a cardboard box with a clip-on light that you could get at Target, fruit from my kitchen, and some towels. And I want people to see the approachability of that too. I want them to understand that there doesn't have to be this huge barrier for entry, and that you have to have the special fancy supplies, and that you have to have all that sort of special setup, or you can do this in your own home, you can make this in your own space, and that's sort of my goal in a way, is to teach others, to empower others to be creative and whatever their output is. So I know, so I'm like, whoo, there's jamming. It's fun.
Well, it's so impressive.
Speed drawing.
So it's so impressive that you can do that in matter of the 10 minutes. And thank you so much for demonstrating from the beginning to the end. That's so great. And now
Absolutely.
you are local and not in California. And
Right.
you're involved in some projects, including the Foxborough Cable Access, your art show. Can you tell a little bit about it?
I would love to. So that actually, I will be teaching what I just did and sort of like speed draw through. Well, I can absolutely will slow down and teach you the basics and go through the sort of the concepts. And in the show, I'll be teaching still life ideas with tone, composition, sort of all the sort of a general gambit of what I learned in the atelier. And there's just two sides of the coin, which is still life. The other side of the coin is figure drawing. And so half of it will be the still life section. The other half will be learning about how to draw the figure. Because that's really that classical training, is really you learn how to do this, you learn how to draw people, and then you do the two together to do this final like masterpiece of a portrait of, say, a king or someone of importance. That's where the training. And I want people to know how to draw portraits of their family members or people that they care about, or whatever that may be, whatever brings them joy. I want to give them the tools to be able to approach it without feelings of shame or fear, that we can strip away the idea of either you have it or you don't, that there's no age limit. There's no time like the present to just start now and practice and really just it's knowledge. So I sort of hopefully can take people on a journey and teach them sort of the things that I've learned and picked up over the years, not just from the atelier too. I'm also talking about stuff I've learned from like Doug Chang, people like Eric Tiemans, who's an amazing concept artist at Lucasfilm, as well as many other artists and people that I've come across, from the model makers, at Disney or even at Lucasfilm. So I refer to a lot of different things and a lot of different people and share sort of my knowledge of that experience. And so hopefully people tune in and enjoy it. So
It's just unbelievable, some of the work you've done, and then now you are like local, and then being able to share your world class knowledge with us. We are highly honored, and I don't want people to take for granted the hard work that you have done in Disney, Warner Brothers, and then those are the jobs that people dream of, and then people like aiming that not so many people can get that job. So I completely congratulate you for your career. But one thing I want to mention is to get to where you are, did you have any struggle?
absolutely. I think that that's been the driving force. I feel like so I was homeless at 18, and that wasn't easy. And definitely adjusting to being displaced, having no one to turn to, and eventually being able to go to Hawaii, and sort of even then it was chaos. It was not a good space. There was a lot of bad things. And I went through a lot of challenging times that really had to reassess my own place in the world, if that makes sense. And going through those dark times, the one thing that got me through it, all of them, each key terrible moment in my life, has always been art. My drawing and my ability to just go into that world, to just sink into me and the page and whatever I'm studying and whatever I'm creating, and that's the world that no one could touch, and they couldn't get me there, whatever that meant, that was my sanctuary. And so that's where it breaks my heart when I hear people say, oh, I can't do art, like I'm terrible. It's like how much they could find solace if they could let go of that shame. Because for me, that really became a place where they're like, how can you draw so good and so fast and so well? Well, it's like, well, thousands and thousands of hours of practice and conditioning. And I didn't have a normal childhood, and I was home alone a lot. And I filled the time with drawing and that in reading. And so, I feel like that's something as well that is sort of my mission, is to communicate with those that may be struggling, that may be having a tough time, that may be not feeling good, that there's ways that you can find outlets to be creative, and having that moment of creativity that is unique to you. And whatever you create is beautiful because it comes from you. That's the most powerful thing. And I feel like that's what got me through all of that. All of the terribleness was always that little like light inside of me that said, you are a creative and you are meant to do more, and you're here to create beautiful things that bring joy to others. And that alone, if I can teach others to then do that and get, theoretically, like it would be able for people to give it as gifts or whatever, to share that joy, for joy to just compound and just continue on. I feel like that's what overcomes the darkness, right? That's what helps us to get through these adversities, because without that, who knows? I may not have worked so hard. I may not have tried so hard if the fear of being unemployed wasn't always at my heels, and being homeless, honestly, being homeless. That's where I think I was self-teaching myself Maya and Photoshop, and working 2 jobs, bartending and waitressing, when I was 22 while going to school. I can't believe it now. I think about it. Like, I was getting up at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Like, what 22-year-old does that consistently? But I was so determined, and that was the thing that got me. I was, by me self-teaching and taking chances, going for it, being like, I don't know if I'll get it, but like, it's worth a shot. And I feel like that's the stuff. It's like you can't get the opportunity if you don't try. And yeah, you may fall on your face. Like, trust me, I have like a whole folder of rejection emails. So it's not like it doesn't happen. It's just that when you get that one, that's all it takes. And continuing to, if you're passionate, because you truly, honestly have to love making movies and making video games to get through the tough times and the tough hours. And so, I think that's where it is as well. You have to have a passion, you have to be creative, and even making things and doing stuff outside of work, right? Like, even when I wasn't making movies, I was still drawing, I was still doing other things, learning, taking classes, teaching classes, because I taught figure drawing at Disney. And at the same time, I was also taking figure sculpture from the sort of famous model maker, Richard Miller, who was at Lucasfilm. He did like so many things. Yeah, he's incredible. And so he taught figure sculpture as sort of, yeah. So it's while I was working full time, like I think back on this and I'm like, how did I do that? I was so tired. But I think that it's like you said, when you're given that chance to be close to those kinds of people. When I found out there's model makers when I was working at IMD, I just like burst through the door. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's what I wanted to do. Like it was so cool because these people worked on like the Star Wars. They worked on like Indiana Jones and like made the props for them and stuff. And so I had the honor of working with them. I helped them get deadlines and do card models and my delicate like specific touch and painting. I do now of painting and of maquettes and all kinds of stuff. And so I feel like the idea, as well as you probably hear, is that I've never turned down the opportunity to learn something new. I'm always trying to gain more knowledge. If I can learn something from someone else, an expert in their field, please share, give with me. You know, like they say, like the only way to get better at chess is to be beaten by a master. And so I'm always like looking to be like beaten by the master, like show me how you do your thing and how can I learn to then take that knowledge and apply it into whatever else I'm creating. And so I don't know. I hope to be 95 and still taking classes, not even teaching, taking classes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to be done. We'll never be finished. I'll never. And I try to share that passion with others and to remind others to not give up and to, you know, if we can find the joy and the silliness and the fun in it, the sort of point of expectation versus reality will kind of lessen in the sense of like, oh, what my drawings don't look what I expect them to look like. If you push through that and kind of find silliness through those moments of like, it's okay, but I'm finding progress instead of perfection, you're going to have a more genuine experience and just be more of an honest, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I know I could talk about that forever.
Alison, we are running out of time, but
yes, absolutely.
Want to know where people can find your art. Do you have a website? Do you have Instagram? IMDb?
Yes, I know IMDb. Yes, you can definitely look me up, Alison Kellom, on the Image Movers, internet movie database. Let's see, I have my website, ALISONKELLOM.com. My Instagram is AlisonKellom.art. And the show will be Art with Alison. I also have a Art with Alison YouTube channel that has some of my previous classes from this past year teaching online as well that I have recorded from Zoom up as well and sort of broken up into little 15-minute segments. And so talking about similarly the same sort of stuff, but not quite the same production value as Foxborough Cable Access.
So I know you're going to be working on your original short film as well, and you have many projects coming up. So people can follow Alison's Instagram. So would you please share your last word to our audience who are watching around Foxborough?
Oh my goodness. I would say, you know, get out there and create, have fun, but, you know, find joy in the simplicity. You know, the drawing fruit and it's cliche for a reason. It's easy and it's hard. It's not, you know, and I think that what's simpler than something you can just find in your kitchen. And so my goal is to just, you know, find something lying around the house and sort of make some stuff, you know, to help you get through the tough times. It's going to help through the difficult moments when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, that this can be an opportunity. I know for Jury, it's music. And so she understands that it's that same expression, right? Creative outlet. So
wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for watching another episode of Around Foxborough. My name is Julie Love. I'm your host. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Our executive producer, Paul, sorry. I'm going to redo it again. Is that okay, Paul?
Go ahead. 3, 2.
Thank you everyone for watching another episode of Around Foxborough. My name is Julie Love. I'm your host. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Our executive director is Michael Weber, and our director is Paul Beck. You can visit our website, fcatv.org, click on Video on Demand, and find all the episodes of Around Foxborough. See you next time.